Hi, thank you for checking out this little corner of YouTube. I'm Robin Morley, and welcome to Sketchbook Oddities. Today, I thought I'd do a sketchbook tour since I just recently finished a book. This sketchbook covers the art that I've created since Inktober 2025, and after 31 days of black and white drawings, I desperately needed to use some color. And I thought I'd focus on the line wash technique for a bit, since I was already using a lot of ink. So, let's see how that turned out for me. My first drawing was entitled Aviators. It's a simple piece that was aimed at reintroducing myself to watercolors after a long absence. And I realized exactly how much I missed using the medium once I got started painting it. The next one, Midnight Blue, was my first experiment with paint splattering. I wanted to inject some energy into the piece to counterbalance the tight line work I normally do. And I think it worked out better than I expected it to. Captain Flint was the next piece, and I named him after the villain from Treasure Island. I planned on a red macaw, but that day was all about green. So I went all in. Green parrot, green jungle. Basically, I painted a camouflaged bird. Sometimes you just have to commit to the bit. Now, the Goblin Priest was a deliberate palette cleanser. No cute creatures, no bright colors. I was shooting for something grimy, maybe even unsettling. And yet, he still managed to come out a little cute. I blame the haircut. Beetle Rider came next. Out of all the insects I could put into armor, I wanted the least possible threatening insect. So I chose a fly. Something about a tiny little fly who thinks he's the next Napoleon. I just thought was hilarious. Which naturally led to army ants. Since I was already drawing militarized insects, the choice was pretty obvious. The army ant basically named itself. One of my favorite pieces was the Nuthatch Medic. It was an exercise in muted colors that I think turned out quite well. I tried to create a very introspective moment to match the colors, very quiet, and I think it works, and it felt good to do something a little bit more subdued for a change. So this was my first installment to the Red Dead Cute Critter series. It's my version of Sheriff Malloy of Valentine, a mouse of a lawman who wouldn't know what to do with a criminal even if they turned themselves in. This leads to one of my favorite pieces, Legion, a pair of centurion crows, an attempted murder, if you will. Everything came together for this piece. Inks, washes, color choices. It has a looseness that I'm always striving for. Low Earth Orbit was a fun exercise in contrast. Not only is the squirrel dressed in a bright white astronaut suit and he's up against a black background filled with stars, there's also the juxtaposition of this little guy trying to fly without any wind. Which probably explains why Doc Hopaway swung so hard in the opposite direction. Not only does he have the strongest, most developed background in the entire sketchbook, he has some of the brightest colors as well. I think I may have overcompensated, but it just has everything going for it. I followed it up with Genghis Falcon. The idea itself went a little bit wrong, but I should have spent more time with the setup sketch. But still a strong piece, and I was happy with the result. Spackler's Rival is a total mashup of memes. The dramatic groundhog meme, the 1,000-yard stare meme, with a healthy dose of Caddyshack references. It wound up feeling charming, yet a little chaotic. Kind of exactly what I was shooting for. Laugh It Up Fuzzball is an example when everything goes wrong. I was too tired to paint, but I tried anyways. The composition is weak, the drawing's weaker. And when I started adding the washes, I realized I used a water-soluble pen. So I just had to let it stand as an ink drawing. It's not pretty, it's not good, but every sketchbook needs at least one disaster to remind you that the good ones aren't accidents, that you actually earn them. Micah the Rat was my way of getting back onto the horse. When I made this addition to the Red Dead series, I really focused on the line work and the coat, and I was quite happy with how it turned out. Meerkat the Thief was a random throwback to D&D, but with a little bit of a twist. It kind of works. I learned a few things, so that's always good. The splattering got away from me. It almost looks like he let out a little gas. Saxon Seagull was a fun piece. Yeah, I made a few mirrors, such as I never did finish painting the wing for some reason, but also made a few discoveries as well. The splattering was heavier than I intended to for the second time in a row, so that was a lesson I took forward. The next addition to the Red Dead series is Uncle Possum. There is no other Vanderlyn gang member that avoids work more than Uncle. So I thought an opossum was a perfect for the man who always plays dead at the first sight of chores. This was totally inspired by Valentine's Day. I painted it for my wife, the Cuddle Monster, a snowy owlbear looking for belly rubs. Despite having the weakest performance for views and likes on YouTube out of the entire sketchbook, it still holds a special place with me. Our friend suggested that the idea of rolling dice to decide what to draw, so that's how Random Encounters series came to be. I made up a very D&D specific chart to achieve the goal. Unfortunately, I rolled the most unimaginative combination possible, a lawful, neutral, human monk. But the dice rolls what the dice rolls. I felt it was time for a more important character to be introduced to the Red Dead Critter series, so I came up with Dutch Badgerlind. I came up with Dutch Badgerlind, the one person who always fights the unnecessary fights and is extremely territorial. It seemed like a natural fit. I still wanted to make Random Encounters work, so I revamped the chart to get more interesting characters. This, I wound up with a scientific bug hero. I really like how the inks came together for this one, and the colors actually turned out quite well as well. This led to Mrs. Hen Grimshaw, the mother hen of the Vanderlyn gang. I should have spent more time thinking about how to apply the paint, and I should have made some smarter color choices. I like it though, and I think it actually is a nice addition to the series. Punch Buddy is absolutely my favorite of the book. I understood the assignment that day when I went to paint. The looseness that I'm always chasing around, it just seemed to flow off the brush that day, and I was really happy with the outcome. Now, pardon me as I butcher this, but with Shima Inaga Samurai, I tried to let the delicate light washes and the heavy detailing of the armor do all the heavy lifting. I wound up chasing some mistakes around the page, but yet, in the end, I feel it does work. And so, for my closing piece, another Red Dead entry, was Charles the Bear. I deliberately reversed my approach. I used my hatching style for heavy detail in the fur and minimal treatment of the clothing. I was trying to move on what I felt like was a difficult piece by flipping where the detail lives. It was an interesting experiment, even if the background had its own ideas. I made the mistake of trying to wing the background, thinking spontaneity would keep it fresh. It didn't. But during the inking phase, something meditative kicked in, and I found my hatching naturally becoming fur without forcing it. And that's what I'm always working towards. Letting my style do the heavy lifting rather than fighting it. It's the lesson the sketchbook kept teaching me in different ways, and hopefully I can carry on to my next sketchbook. This ends my sketchbook tour. Thank you for watching. I hope if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. It really does help boost the signal for small channels like this. And I'll see you around the outer rims.